When it comes to the styling of modern Honda cars, they're very much out there, from the Civic to the Fit to the Vezel. There's something always a little bit bold, something a bit edgy about the cars. But when it comes to their larger vehicles, Honda tends to play it quite safe. And that's very much true of the vehicle that I have with me today. You see, Honda understands the type of people buying these cars. They're not looking to turn heads at a car meet or make a statement in the parking lot. They're looking for reliability, practicality, and comfort. They want something that fits into their lives without asking too much of them, and that's very evident with this 4th generation CR-V. It's calm, it's clean, it's confident, and it's not trying too hard. And for a lot of people, that's exactly the point. Now, some of you are probably wondering, wait a minute, didn't he just show us a white CR-V and now suddenly there's a silver one? Did Honda sponsor him 2 cars for this review? I wish. The truth is, I actually had the chance to drive 2 different CR-Vs whilst filming this video. The white one came first, but unfortunately that one has already been sold. Luckily, I also got to spend some time with the silver one right here. And good news for anyone watching, this is actually still up for sale. Big thanks to Nkoma Felix for trusting me with this car and letting me film with it. And if this silver one isn't quite your thing, don't worry, they've got a wide range of cars to choose from. So chances are, you'll find something that fits your taste. Much like the Toyota Rush I covered in my previous video, the Honda CR-V has 3 vertical slats that work their way into the headlights. But in this case, they are not quite as flattering. On the Rush, those slats felt more intentional, more integrated into the design. Here on the CR-V, they feel a bit like an afterthought. Not offensive by any means, but definitely a step down in terms of execution. Excusable though, considering that the Rush came out in 2017 and this in 2011. And honestly, that's the most interesting thing I can say about the front end of the CR-V. Further down here, fog lights shrouded in black plastic, and same goes for the lower lip of the front bumper. That kind of plastic tends to cheapen the look, especially as the car ages with time. Now, it's also worth noting that the facelifted version of this same generation cleans that up a little bit. They ditched the vertical slats and replaced the lower panels with painted ones instead, which I do have to say gives the car a more cohesive, premium look. That said, this car isn't ugly by any means. I actually like the front end of this car. It's clean, it's well proportioned, and it gives the car a proper sense of size. Down the side, the CR-V features a chrome surround strip that envelopes the windows of the car, coming to a point towards the rear of the vehicle, almost as if it's trying to stretch the bodywork towards the back of the car. It gives the side profile a bit of motion, a bit of elegance. Lower down you have another black plastic strip. Again, not ideal, but not out of place either considering the type of vehicle this is. You also get chrome handles, which hey, a little bit of bling never hurt anyone, right? But there's one thing I really dislike about the side profile of the CR-V, and that's how dishonest it is. Can you see it? No? I don't blame you, most people won't even notice it at first. But take a closer look further down and you'll notice this massive black plastic panel. And no, the car's not broken, that panel is standard. It's there to protect all the bits and pieces underneath the car. And that's fine in theory, but my problem with it is that it robs the car of ground clearance. And considering that here in Africa we deal with all kinds of roads, from smooth tarmac to craters masquerading as potholes, this setup doesn't exactly inspire confidence. I mean, isn't the whole point of cars like this to offer a little bit more freedom, to go further off the beaten path than the regular sedan would dare? But with this plastic panel hanging so low, the CR-V feels more like a crossover that's pretending to be rugged than one that actually is. And that's because it is pretending. You see, the CR-V fits into another niche category of SUVs. Much like the Toyota Rush is a subcompact SUV, the CR-V is considered a soft roader, which means the CR-V was designed primarily for on-road use. But with SUV styling and the quality of life improvements of an SUV, customers have come to expect from a comfortable roundabout vehicle, or as it's known in other markets, compact recreational vehicle. At the back, the most distinctive feature of the CR-V has to be the taillights. And if they look familiar, it's probably because they bear striking resemblance to the ones that you might find on a Volvo XC60. Now, I'd say Volvo really kicked off this trend, or did they? See, if you look back at the CR-V's history, it's actually always had some form of vertical taillight design. So you could argue that is just an evolution of Honda's own design language. But I still think Volvo pioneered the modern version of it. And dare I say they did it better. Here's a Volvo XC60 concept from 2007, followed by the production XC60 from 2008. And then we've got the CR-V that came out in 2011. All I'm saying is the time is very suspicious. Very suspicious indeed. Very suspicious, Honda.
We are different people. We speak different languages. Huh? We have different faces, but inside we are same. Same, but different. But still same. Oh, thank you. Konnichiwa.
The middle section of this car actually reminds me quite a lot of the Honda Fit or Honda Jazz, depending on the market you're in. Mainly because of that gloss black panel running across the tailgate. And that's about it, until you notice the line running across the bottom part of the tailgate. And for a moment your mind goes, wait a minute, is this a split tailgate? That would be so practical. You reach for it already imagining how easy it will be to load groceries or sit on the folded down section. You stand there, waiting, anticipating, and then nothing. It's not a split tailgate, just a one-piece standard liftgate pretending to be something it's not. Really, Honda? Really? Again with the pretense? Shame on you.
Shame on you. Shame on you. You need to do better.
Shame, 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 shame.
The overall look at the back here kind of puts me off if I'm being honest. Particularly the top here, it just kind of ends abruptly. It's got this weird slope that makes the rear look unfinished, almost as if the designer stopped halfway through. I really think a spoiler would have helped complete the look. Just something subtle to help give this car a better send-off. So yeah, overall the CR-V isn't going to turn any heads. It's not ugly, but it's not exciting either. It's just okay looking. That is if you can get over the massive forehead staring down every car behind you. But where this car really starts to make its case, inside. And right off the bat, I have to say, hands down, out of the big four Japanese car manufacturers, Toyota, Honda, Nissan and Mazda, Honda makes the best interiors. And I don't mean that in an ooh, it's plush in here kind of way. No, I mean it in terms of the overall feel. Everything in here feels substantial and looks genuinely appealing. The texture of the plastics, the way everything is layered, how the lines swoop and curve to form the dash, it all feels intentional. Even the materials they use on the doors give you the sense that they're going to last a long time. If I had one gripe though, it would be the slippery suede they used on the seats. It just doesn't feel like it's going to hold up over the years. Personally, I'll trade those in for cloth seats in an instant. They probably last longer and would be easier to live with. Something else you notice in here is the space. It's a very roomy car. People on the larger side won't struggle at all. And it's not just the passenger space, it's the storage space too. Practical, usable storage space is littered all over the cabin of this car. Starting with the center console, you've got a deep storage box with a sliding lid. I'm pretty sure a small purse could fit in here, along with drinks, snacks, you name it. You've got large cup holders, a charging socket, and an extra open area for whatever you can throw in there. Lower down in the sides, there are little pockets perfect for your phone or wallet. The door bins are generous too, easily big enough for 2 large bottles, plus a middle section for whatever else you can cram in there. Even the rear doors have deep pockets that can take larger bottles without a fuss. The cabin also gets plenty of natural light thanks to those big windows, front and back, which really helps bring out the design details on the door panels. Again, we see Honda's love for layering here. Different materials folding into each other, a contrasting silver strip running through the middle, and down below, speakers hidden behind a honeycomb grille. Up front is the same story, just stretched to fill the bigger opening with a little extra storage space and controls for the driver's side. The dash is mostly black, broken in the center by the silver accent strip that runs the entire width. In the middle you've got a fairly generic radio flanked by 2 air vents. And if you've got a bit of an imagination, you might notice it kind of resembles Honda's old logo. You know, the one with the wings? Further up there's an open space, and it's worth noting that higher spec models have a second screen that can display all sorts of useful information. The shaggy carpets in this particular CR-V add a surprising bit of character. They look funky, but in a good way. Further down, the climate controls sit in a different textured plastic panel. Everything here is simple, straightforward, and clearly laid out. At the lowest part of the dash is the gear selector. It's big, prominent, and honestly, a little bit too big for my liking. Thankfully, later generations cleaned this area up. But before we move on from it, it's worth noting that beneath the silver release button is this car's sports mode button, handy for a bit of extra juice when overtaking. Otherwise, the car just defaults to a more fuel-saving setup. There's also an eco button on the driver's right, which puts the CR-V into its most efficient mode. Up top, you've got 2 standard map lights. Nice and simple. Just press them down and they click on. There's also a little spot for your sunglasses, which is always handy, and that covered section with the tiny holes, that's actually where Honda hid the Bluetooth microphone. The sun visors are nothing fancy, but they do have a little light when you flip open the mirror, and if you look to the sides, the ceiling mounted grab handles are damped. That's the kind of small touch you'd expect to see in something more expensive. Now moving to the back seats, honestly there's not a whole lot going on back here. No gimmicks, no hidden tricks, in fact there aren't even any charging ports for the passengers. But to be fair, this car comes from a time before everyone had their phone glued to their hand. What you do get is the basics. Seat back pockets, a fold-down armrest in the middle with these two tiny cup holder cutouts, and that's pretty much it. But the important thing here is space. You can definitely seat 3 people back here comfortably, maybe even 4 if you don't mind a bit of a squeeze. The windows are huge too, and they kind of have to be, because when your phone battery eventually dies on a long trip, well, staring out the window will probably be your only source of entertainment. And by far my favorite part of this entire interior has to be the gauge cluster, which honestly has no business looking this cool. It's split into 3 distinct phases. In the middle, you have your current speed with the needle that looks like it's floating in the air, almost careful not to disturb the inner display, showing various trip and fuel data. To the left, you've got your tachometer, to the right, your fuel level and engine temperature, and around the outer edge of the central display are ambient lights that change color depending on how efficiently you're driving. Green being the most efficient. Overall, I'll give this interior a solid 8 out of 10. Practicality is pretty strong in the CR-V and it's got some pretty clever party tricks up its sleeve. For example, pull the tab at the bottom of the rear seat and it folds down forward. With both lower cushions folded, you can fit about 3 of those standard yellow crates side by side. Then, you can pull the lever on the seat back. The headrest tilts forward and the backrest follows down. If the lower cushion is still in place, it actually springs out of the way first. Then the backrest follows, and it doesn't slam down either. It moves slowly, almost dramatically. I suspect this was intentional to give the cushion time to clear, but sometimes it just doesn't work perfectly and the seat gets caught. Still, when it works, it's such a cool little mechanism. You can also fold the seats down from the boot. You just pull the levers on either side and they fold down exactly the same way. With all the seats down, you get a huge flat loading space that's completely usable with no compromises, unlike the humpback wheels that I've encountered in several Toyotas. Take notes, Toyota. Take notes. And you're supposed to be the practical one. Quick side note, the white CR-V single seat wouldn't fold, and that's the one that I use for my crate test. But I reckon with the seats folded down flat, you could just about fit 3 crates side by side, and another 3 stacked on top. Further into the boot area, the wheel wells narrow the space to 2 side by side. But you could still stack about another 2 on top. Plenty of different configurations to work with. Since we're already at the boot, there's also a rectangular load cover to keep prying eyes off your stuff. It snaps in and out by clamping onto the sides, and you can remove it completely if you need to carry larger items. There are even cutouts to store it in, which I assume are designed for the cover. On the boot walls, you've got hooks for grocery bags so that they don't roll around, plus a single net on the left side. Under the false floor, you'll find a space saver tire, or biscuit tires as some call it, along with a tire replacement kit and a scissor jack. Not a full-size spare tire, but definitely better than nothing. Overall, I've got to hand it to the team behind the CR-V. They've absolutely nailed the design. It's smart, practical, and refined in a way that clearly resonates with buyers. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. About 5 million people agree, judging by the SUV's global sales. In fact, it's Honda's best-selling vehicle worldwide, and back in 2020, it was the second best-selling SUV on the planet. The 4th generation CR-V takes everything its predecessors did well and turns it up a notch, with better quality, more practicality, and an extra layer of refinement. The CR-V is a pioneer that helped define the compact SUV segment, and it's been comprehensively reworked to stay ahead of the game. Sure, there are a few minor quirks here and there, but as a complete package, it's a seriously impressive piece of work. If you're the type who just wants one car that can juggle everything without complaining, this is it. School runs? Easy. Grocery hauls? No sweat. Long distance trips with the family, plus the dog, plus half your house in the back? The CR-V just shrugs and says, cool, where to? And the best part, you don't need to baby it. Honda's reputation for durability means you can just get in, drive, and trust that it'll still be around long after your neighbor's fancier SUV has started falling apart. It's not really chasing speed demons or track day fans. That's not its world. This is for the sensible but not boring crowd, the people who want something comfortable, reliable, and spacious, but still nice enough inside that you don't feel like you're driving a glorified toolbox. Now let's talk about pricing, because this is where the CR-V really starts to look tempting. A lot of these are listed online between $5,000 to $10,000, with some even dipping as low as $2,000. Of course, those cheap ones usually have well over 200,000 kilometers on the clock, so you definitely want to be cautious there. Most examples you find are sitting past the 100,000 kilometer mark, but every now and then you stumble across a unicorn. Like this one I saw with just 19,000 kilometers going for $10,000. Not bad at all. And a lot of people are starting to take notice of this car as I see more and more of these on the road. Now if you're cross-shopping, the Nissan X-Trail is usually priced around the same ballpark as the CR-V, sometimes even cheaper with similar mileage. The Toyota RAV4 though, that's in a league of its own when it comes to pricing. They're noticeably higher, and that really comes down to the Toyota badge. Their resale value stays strong thanks to Toyota's reputation for bulletproof reliability. So if you're on a budget, the CR-V gives you plenty of value without paying the Toyota premium. Keep in mind though, all of these prices are before you factor getting the car landed here in Zimbabwe. But before you buy, let's quickly touch on a few common issues with this generation of CR-V. First one, and probably the most well known, is a rattling noise you might hear on cold starts. That usually comes from the VTC actuator and the timing system. It's not the end of the world, but if you leave it too long, it can wear out other parts, so it's definitely worth checking if it needs to be replaced. Second, a lot of owners, especially with the later 2.4 liter and CVT models, complain about vibrations at idle when the car's in gear. You feel it more when you're sitting at a robot in the morning. Sometimes it's mounts, sometimes it's software updates, but it's a pretty common quirk. And third, the transmission itself. Some of the earlier 5-speed autos and even a few CVTs can develop a shudder when you're accelerating lightly, or they shift a bit harshly. Most of the time a fluid change or software update smooths things out, but if it's really bad, it could point to torque converter wear. So if you're in the market for one of these, just keep an ear out, feel those vibrations, and pay close attention to how the gearbox behaves on your test drive. Now, when it comes to maintenance, let's talk about the basics. Now, Honda will tell you the CR-V takes 0W20 fully synthetic oil, and yeah, that's the best option if you want maximum efficiency and protection. But I'm going to be honest, sometimes the oil can be pricey or hard to find. So what else can you use? Well, if you want something close, you can go for the 5W20, either in synthetic blend or conventional. It'll still protect your engine just fine. But it's not going to be quite as good with cold starts or fuel economy as the 0W20. If you live somewhere hotter, or maybe your CR-V has a few years and kilometers under its belt, a 5W30 works well too. It's a little thicker, gives you a little extra bit of protection, but you might lose a touch of fuel efficiency. And then there's 10W30. That's the cheapest and most common oil out there. But honestly, I'd only recommend it if it's for very old engines or if you're in a super hot climate. For most people, it's not ideal. For the air filter, the genuine Honda part you're looking at is 17220 RZPG00. Of course, there are plenty of aftermarket parts too, some of which I put on the screen. Now for the brakes. The front brake pads take Honda part number 45022T0AA00, and the rears are 43022T0AA00. Again, they're aftermarket options if you'd prefer those, so I'll pop those on the screen for you as well. And lastly, oil filters. Honda's OEM ones are usually 15400 PLM A02 or 15400 PLM A01. If you can't get those or just want an alternative, there are other good aftermarket choices which I flashed on the screen as well. Now, I got the opportunity to drive two versions of this car, the white one and the silver one. First impressions, I'd say that nothing really stood out. It felt very generic. The seating position is substantially high given that this is an SUV, and I would expect that after all. I wouldn't go out of my way to say it's commanding as the feeling you would get in something like a Range Rover, but still good enough. Initially, I wasn't too impressed by the engine performance of this vehicle, and that was for the white one. However, driving the silver one, it changed my mind. The first one felt dull and unresponsive. At a robot, I got out-accelerated by a Nissan NV200. It felt like the feeling of the Toyota Rush I talked about earlier, with the feeling of there being a plastic piece underneath the accelerator pedal. However, when I drove the second car, I immediately felt the difference. That felt more responsive right from the get-go, and that is as a result of the car having different engines. You see, you can get the CR-V with the following lineup of engines. Feel free to pause the video if you want to take a closer look. Definitely pay close attention if you're buying one of these or thinking of buying one of these to the acceleration and response when test driving the car to see if it meets your need for speed. Get it? Get it? Because... Anyway, moving on. Ride comfort is just about what you'd expect from a vehicle in this class. It soaks up the bumps well enough, but not to the point where I would say that it's jarring or anything. It's in between feeling floaty and slightly firm. It's a big car and the suspension needs to be firm enough to handle the weight of the car. Body roll is present when cornering hard, but for your average everyday driving, it stays composed. Steering feel is on the lighter side and it gives good enough feedback that anyone driving will be confident behind the wheel. It's responsive enough. Gears are all sorted, it shifts perfectly, and you won't feel the shifts under normal driving conditions for a nice smooth ride. Brakes feel nice, firm, sorted, and there's no fade. You'll be confident enough that you'll stop in any given situation. All-round visibility is amazing, and when it comes to most of these units, they'll come with reversing cameras. The side mirrors are nice and wide, and they give a nice big picture of what's going on behind you. Despite it being a slightly wide vehicle, you should have no problem parking the car or estimating its width or placement on the road as you're driving. And even if you aren't happy with all that, there's plenty of adjustability and configurability to make it all work. Cabin noise isn't bad at all. It's not a luxury vehicle, so you can't expect Mercedes-Benz level of insulation and refinement. Tire noise, road noise, and wind noise are all acceptable. Overall, if you're looking for a reliable family car with lots of practicality, this CR-V absolutely delivers it. It ticks so many boxes: space, comfort, safety, and that all-important Honda reliability. It's the kind of car you can buy and not have to constantly worry about it, which is exactly what you want in a daily driver. And that's what makes this car such a winner, and that's why 5 million people around the world have already put their money where their mouth is. The CR-V isn't about chasing trends, it's about delivering consistency, comfort, and confidence. If you want a car that's going to stick by you for years without a fuss, this is the one. Would I daily drive this car? Absolutely. Would I recommend this car? Well, that really depends on what you're after. If space and comfort are at the top of your list, then absolutely. The CR-V ticks those boxes with no problem. But if you're the type who wants a car that can shrug off rough roads and handle tough terrain without breaking a sweat, then you might want to check out my video on the Toyota Rush instead.
Initial D.